I'm Kyle Clark. This is Next. 10 years ago tonight, this program went on the air for the first time. This evening, we'll look back and ahead after we deal with the day's news. It is incredibly rare for law enforcement in Colorado to be charged with murder for an on-duty shooting. We've learned that if an Aurora police officer, Matthew Neely, takes the stand in his own murder trial, there could be a complication. A judge previously found Neely not credible enough to testify in other cases. Neely's charged with second-degree murder in the shooting death of Rajon Belt, who came at him, fists raised, after a car chase. When that case goes to trial, it is possible the jury may learn about Neely's prior record of dishonesty. Back in 2019, he testified in a robbery case in Arapahoe County. The case was tossed when the judge ruled that Neely's testimony did not match the video evidence. Prosecutors had to issue what's called a Brady letter, notifying defense attorneys that the judge found Officer Neely not credible. It's got to be a bit lonely being a mayor. A lot of problems, a lot of people upset with you about this or that. Mayors in the metro area have a support group of sorts. Our Evan Krugel isn't a mayor, but they let him in anyway.
Inside a secret room in a secret Denver building sits a secret meeting of not so secret people.
Great. Any other news or update from your communities?
Littleton Mayor Kyle Schlachter
Don't be shy now.
is one of 38 mayors in the Metro Mayor's Caucus.
I think we should change the name from Metro Mayor's Caucus to the Super Secret Group of Mayors. That might get some more people poking their ears up.
For decades, this group has met behind closed doors, where most have no idea it exists.
I don't think so. Absolutely not.
No, I would venture to say that a lot of people in Broomfield don't even know who the mayor is. I'm not kidding.
Guyleen Castriata and mayors from cities small and large meet every other month to discuss the issues that impact them all.
The people are talking about the cost of everything.
In my community, we talk about what's going on in the parks, housing, whether it's data centers, energy.
Water is a topic just across the state due to the drought. We all are facing similar issues, and how we can collaborate, learn from each other, and build strong relationships, I really think will be a part of our state's future success.
Lone Tree Mayor Marissa Harmon says political parties don't play a role here.
I think it's the most important thing we can do as mayors, regionally, statewide, is show that we agree on more than we disagree on.
Good relationships lead to good communication, which leads to good governance. And that's what we're all about, is trying to make sure that the Denver metro area here is governed well. And that's one of the biggest benefits to this group.
Together, they bounce ideas off one another and say keeping the doors closed lets them speak openly and learn from one another.
These are people that understand what we go through.
Being able to find out what our colleagues are doing is sometimes the answer is right in front of you.
Everyone listens to everyone's perspective.
In a time when division often dominates the headlines, they say their job is to offer something different.
I've heard it said that fear is contagious, but so is hope. And that's what we need to be, that front line of hope for our communities.
Now, we were invited in for the final 15 minutes of today's meeting. The majority of that discussion focused on water and how different communities are navigating the situations they're in. Now, every mayor gets the same standing in this group, which is just one arm of the nonprofit group Civic Results. So Denver and Mountain View, for example, are treated as equals in this group as they look to solve problems facing the entire metro area. Kyle?
Yeah, right. You've got some people in that room who have like real political heft and others who are complete unknowns. They also may have very different political views, but common problems.
Absolutely. They set that aside when they come through these doors, bounce ideas off of one another, and try to solve problems in individual communities, and in doing so, solve problems across the metro area.
Evan Krugel, thank you. Democratic Senator Michael Bennett's being hit with a $7,400 fine for violating campaign finance laws. He used Senate campaign funds to pay some expenses in his run for governor. As the band The Offspring, noted campaign finance experts, once said, you got to keep them separated. Our partners at Colorado Politics say it was about $24,000 worth of travel expenses that should have been paid for out of the one bucket but came out of the other bucket. Bennett's Gov campaign reimbursed the Senate side, and he's agreed to pay that fine and not appeal. Colorado's air quality is pretty chewy today. You probably did not need a 9 News alert on your phone to tell you that. You certainly didn't need dozens of them. My apologies for our system glitching out overnight, sending people the same air quality alert over and over and over again. But for real, the air quality is straight trash today. On the Front Range, Western Slope, and in the high country, this is wildfire smoke coming over from Utah. Again, sorry about the repetitive alerts. Don't know what jackass around here is responsible for that. There he is. There's Crispy Donkey, as the closed captioning calls Crispy-Onky. You sent that out, didn't you? All night long, you were just sitting there hammering that button.
I'm trying not to, Kyle, but I'm jealous of you. You have something I don't. Opposable thumbs.
Yep.
I'm jealous of you. So apologies retroactively for the 100+ air quality alerts. Speaking of which, I don't know if you need to know, but we do have an air quality alert that goes until at least 9 a.m. tomorrow morning here along the Front Range and through the mountains as well. That is due to wildfire smoke that's coming in from the Pacific Northwest and also from the Widemouth 2 fire in southwestern Utah. And that smoke will continue into tomorrow and Friday as well. And high pressure moves in, and that will bring us hotter temperatures, which is exactly what I'm sure you wanted to hear. Also, as a creature that is completely covered in fur, this is not the most exciting news for me either, but hopefully I can get working on those opposable thumbs in the next few days as well. Temperatures going to spike up into the 90s, and as we look ahead, yeah, we'll be near 100 degrees Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. The good news is next week, showers and storms return courtesy of the monsoon, and hopefully we'll have less of those air quality alerts next week as well.
Highlight of the day, Crispy-Onky in the Crispy Donkey costume. Thank you, sir. Colorado's forests, they're primed to burn, and there have never been more Coloradans living in or around them. Communities and landowners need plans to protect lives and property. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the nonprofit, the Ember Alliance. Our communities are understandably worried about prescribed burns to clear out materials that could burn out of control in a wildfire, because anytime you're dealing with fire, there is danger. So the Ember Alliance brings in the experts to train local firefighters on how to do it safely. And they help individual cities and towns come up with plans on how to take steps now to protect themselves before a wildfire arrives on their doorstep. The folks in charge at the Ember Alliance told me recently that this danger has been building for a long time. This isn't just about us, they said. This is a generational problem. But they're working to solve it. They get in there in thin forests, they burn slash piles, they do controlled burns, they help communities come up with a plan before disaster strikes. Now, they're obviously not out there burning right now, it's too dry. But this is the time for as many community and landowners as possible to make a plan for this coming winter when it will be safer to clear fuels. Let's help expand their work in Colorado. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. We'll send you that link to donate. Even $5 helps because a ton of you are going to do it. That's how you've raised $19 million in microgiving. You know the deal. It's obnoxious if somebody sits on TV and asks you to give your money, so I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us going. More than 8,000 of you are signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your information and select a donation amount one time. Each month, your generosity is automatically split among all the nonprofits we feature. And this month, with 5 campaigns, 5 weeks, we'll start off with about $40,000 apiece. A decade ago tonight, this program debuted on 9 News alongside the Rio Olympics. We will look back at when your host and the rest of us were young and full of life. And we'll continue our tradition of sending next reporters out on wild assignments.
When I was 8 years old at sleepaway camp, I woke up the counselor to tell him I couldn't sleep. He told me to go back to bed and count sheep. 20 years later, it's 3:45 in the morning, and I'm counting sheep.
Spencer Soicher counts sheep at daybreak for science. A trip to Pikes Peak, next. I'm Kyle Clark. This is Next. A quick word about words and how we intend to use them on Next. 40 years ago, 1976, Carl Akers began doing commentary on 9 News, the kind of commentary and analysis we'll share here on Next. I'm no Carl Akers, not even close. But we are in the house Akers built, in the state
Akers loved, and he knew that talking honestly, openly about the challenges and opportunities ahead for Colorado was an essential thing to do.
That is how this program started 10 years ago tonight. Our goal was to bring you something new that was also a bit of a throwback to the time when journalists who loved this state deeply shared news and views. The Rio Olympics and Colorado's decades-long debate over the Olympics were top stories that night. Cheryl Preheim reported for Next from Rio about the first ever refugee Olympic team. Cheryl remains a good friend. She's an anchor at our sister station in Atlanta. Connor McGahee, voice of the Avs and Mile High, joined us as an in-studio announcer. He's still in both of those roles. And former Governor Dick Lamb sat down to talk about his lifelong effort to keep the Olympics out of Colorado. Dick Lamb passed away in 2021. Some things haven't changed. We're still sending our next team out on the oddest assignments we can find, because a newscast that's full of car crashes, house fires, and random crime isn't just depressing, it's boring. Our Steve Stager got a ridiculous assignment on day one of Next.
Steve Stager's reporting will be featured here most nights. For this premiere, we desperately wanted to assign him to cover a cat fashion show. Couldn't find one. So we sent Steve to a button collectors convention in Denver and told him that he can keep his job if he can make buttons interesting in the next 60 seconds.
When you tell somebody you collect buttons, they go, "You do what? You collect what? Why would anybody collect these?"
That was my reaction. Then I found out there's a national button convention every year, and it's here.
And I made a necklace.
There are over 500,000 buttons in here.
Steve made buttons interesting. So, you know, nowadays Steve is doing consumer investigative reporting for 9 News. He'll stop by time to time to do a little Next/Steve on Your Side collab. Spencer Soicher is the reporter who's drawing the assignments no one else wants these days, like waking up at 2 a.m. to go count sheep. He was not thrilled, but he stumbled upon some serious science looking into a real issue for one of Colorado's most iconic animals.
1, 2, 3.
Counting sheep
9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
doesn't make everyone tired.
26.
Ken Anderson doesn't care about waking up early or what people think
You usually count 4 or 5 times.
of his crack of dawn activities.
They think I'm crazy. Now, why do you do that stuff? You know, you get that kind of a response.
He loves it up here. He's climbed every 14er in the state. And for nearly a decade,
We very seldom see them over here.
he's helped Colorado Parks and Wildlife monitor the bighorn sheep population on Pikes Peak.
My climbing partners are all gone. Most of them have either died or they've hip replacements and stuff like that, or moved out of state. And so you can't beat it.
But the lambs he sees today may not be there during next year's count.
We see a lot of issues with respiratory disease and pneumonia.
Ty Woodward is a biologist with CPW. He's in charge of today's count. Since 1988, CPW has been mapping its bighorn sheep herd here.
Been a lot of ups and downs.
95 at last count, down from 205 when they first started keeping track. They're worried more and more are dying young.
That's hard. It's hard to see.
The lambs start coughing. At nearly 14,000 feet, the pneumonia is spreading.
And then unfortunately, most of those lambs are not going to make it through winter.
The count today will help biologists monitor the herd and hopefully find treatments for the disease.
It's really sad to know that that sort of thing is happening.
Counting sheep way up here isn't easy.
What makes it hard is because they're moving. If they'd all stand and look at you, you know, that's one thing.
But seeing them up here makes the early alarm clock worth it.
I mean, it's not everybody that can live up here year round and jump from rock to rock and headbutt like you're hitting a car and then go on with life.
For Next, with TV's Mark Salinger, I'm Spencer Soicher.
Kudos to both for getting up early. When we return, a word about how this show somehow managed to stay on the air for 10 years.
Tonight on Next.
This program, Next, marks 10 years on the air today. I'm kind of surprised as well. You know, we're hardwired as humans to note these milestones in time. We tend to confuse longevity for success, two different things. I remember more than a decade ago when I was pitching the idea of a different kind of local news show to Dave Luigi, the then CEO of our parent company. I was so worried about convincing him that our type of journalism could draw in new viewers, that it could be sustained, that it could be a success. And he stopped me and he said something that I have thought of every day since. He said he wasn't worried about any of that he was confident that Next would work, but he challenged me. He said, I know you're going to build it. What are you going to do with it? Every day that's on my mind. How we can work together, our team and you at home, to make local news into a force for good in Colorado. So here is what we, you, and our team have done with it in the last decade. For starters, we've made it harder for Colorado's politicians to lie and get away with it. We've made it easier to sort out spin. We've built bridges of understanding between Coloradans who have more in common than we might think, as others try to divide us for power and profit. We also took one bridge apart when the governor tried to build his legacy project on the front lawn of the state capitol. Think about that. You told the most powerful person in Colorado no, and he listened to you. You have built your weekly microgiving campaigns into meaningful impact, more than 300 weeks and counting, raising $19 million to feed kids, to build a football field for a small town, to fund years' worth of naturalization classes for new Americans, tiny homes for veterans escaping homelessness. You saved a mental health program for farmers and ranchers, and you bought Christmas gifts for every kid in Denver's public housing. You have poured your time, your treasure, and your trust into this local news program. All three, I know, are precious. Thank you for that. This is an interesting time in media and journalism in America. You know, it's funny, for all of our worry years ago that this program would be a failure and get taken off the air, I actually think it's more likely that this program will someday get taken off the air because of what it does successfully: holding powerful people accountable. But that day was not yesterday, and that day is not today, and 10 years of those days are certainly worth celebrating. I'm not going to sit here and wish for another 10 years of Next. My only hope is that together we will continue to make a positive impact in Colorado for as long as we can. Be back with your feedback. Oh, this is the sweetest. Oh, this is cool. Okay. You know Steve. This is Aaron, who is our social media producer for the longest. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Carrie is here. Carrie was the first producer of Next. Kevin Larson produced us through the pandemic. It's good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Oh, that's amazing. Erica Tinsley is here. Everyone who has ever produced Next is here. Jeff is here. He's our video editor. Lawrence is here. He's our original director. This is Next. Back with your feedback. Back with the team that built and sustained Next over the last 10 years, and here's your feedback. Amy on Threads, y'all helped me get through the COVID lockdown days. The firewood stacked in the background, bright spot in a dismal time. Happy 10th birthday, here's to many more. Sam on Threads, congratulations, Next. Your show does so much good for Colorado. And Julie on Facebook says, this show can never go away. It will, but not soon, so let's make the best of every day. I will see you next time.